if I saw another day, only to scream into the night. Nothing ever tries to change, even if I want to realize. 'Cause I've been sitting here, same old ways, thinking up about the same mistake. Darling, when you go away, it won't be as simple for you.
Yo, guys, it is Old Man G here, RDS, back again, and I'm joined by the amazing Tom the Journalist, as of course, we want to update you on the latest Manchester United sales transfers. Obviously, this is the morning after regarding the FA Cup debacle, but we're not really going to talk about that, folks. Now, we're going to focus on the future of Manchester United, and we're going to talk about, obviously, reports coming out about potentially Sir Jim Ratcliffe being announced as the new owner of Manchester United. But before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter, We Are United X. Smash the notification button, Manchester United news, and more. Look at the merch, you know, yada, 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 etc. Because I know you guys want the nitty gritty. Make sure, obviously, you go and follow Tom at Twitter, at TomJournalist1 as well. But yeah, Tom, man, thanks again for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. As always, thanks for having me back on and everything to provide an update, not just for yourself, but obviously viewers and other people. And yeah, let's have a good discussion and everything.
Yeah, so I mean, let's just get into it. I mean, obviously, I just shout to those in the chat. I'm just seeing Ilias in the chat says Liverpool McAllister for 40 million. Chelsea Caicedo. Obviously, you know, United want Mason Mount to pay. Yeah, I know, Ilya. I know. Jamie Wan says, I hope TomJournalist can make sense of this crap. The takeover, I mean, because if we've got goal leak in the FA Cup final, and then Rule says, hope you enjoyed your holiday. Still no news, sadly. I still am on holiday, still am. So, but yeah, no. Let's get into it. So, Tom, with what is the latest update here? What is actually going on right now?
Well, in the sort of lead up and build up from the first sort of update that I gave from a while was that the senior figures at Manchester United had spoken directly to the Glazer family and to Reign officials, and they said, if any announcement is imminent, because as much as the bidders themselves privately have insisted that for the majority of the process they've been left in the dark, they haven't really been consulted with a lot up until the final, well, up until really this week, just the week that's just gone in what I'm meaning. And from that point, there was Eric Ten Hag, who was very boisterous about it. There was Richard Arnold, there was John Murtough, there was Andy O'Boyle. There's a lot of the different directors who were at the table who make the decisions on the board and the panel at Manchester United, who went directly to the Glazers and said, look, the Manchester United Supporters Trust have been constantly in contact with us for months over clarity over the ownership situation, for which still hasn't been sorted out. And we have an FA Cup final to prepare for. This was on Thursday, and the ownership group and the Glazer family, along with Reign officials, responded in saying any announcement wouldn't be coming before the FA Cup final, and an announcement would be, proposed and publicised in due course after the FA Cup final. But they never put a time scale on it. They never put a date on it. And the update that we have right now is, as far as I'm aware, from what myself and colleagues have heard from the US, is that from when we heard that Sir Jim Ratcliffe privately was the Glazer family's preferred option as to be preferred bidder, that hasn't changed. And at this point now, they've re-looked over the Sheikh Jassim offer. They've looked at the outright bid that you get now from Sheikh Jassim and the longevity of being bought out in maybe 3, 4, 5 years. I'm hearing for Sir Jim Ratcliffe's proposal to buy all 6 Glazer members out. And they look at Sir Jim Ratcliffe offer and they get more money for what they get in the long term. and getting more money in the long term, whilst also being able to stay in the short term. I mean, it's almost a brothel for success. So the update is that the Glazer family has still decided, and they have still said that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is their preferred bidder, and they are prepared to go public with Sir Jim Ratcliffe in due course. There's not been any dates. There's not been any, time scale, because there hasn't been throughout the whole process. So why would there be now? And the only thing I'm saying in this process is there is some things to update people on the Qatari side, which I'm sure, people would be interested in getting into that.
Yeah.
But Sir Jim Ratcliffe knew before privately that he was preferred bidder. And then not so long ago, after we did that stream on a Monday on the and I said Sheikh Jassim will bid again, he did bid again. And that's when he knew that he was losing the battle to buy Manchester United Football Club. He's bid again, and he has lost out again. And I don't know whether that's gamesmanship from the Glazer family, drive the price up, probably so. But Sheikh Jassim is in major disarray in terms of he will not get this football club unless he gives the Glazer family, if not exactly what they want, near enough close to it. And if that ain't £6 billion, then unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for Manchester United fans that might want Sir Jim Ratcliffe as the owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe will be publicly announced as preferred bidder.
Right. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. And I think the first thing I'll start is, the first question is this one of the reasons why, because to be honest, since Sir Jim submitted his initial proposal, and obviously when we heard about the rumors about him, and looked like the confirmed rumors about him keeping the Glazers there, first it was obviously John Avram, and then now we're hearing about, potentially the whole board. This is one of the reasons why it feels like we haven't really heard much in a way from Sir Jim's camp, as opposed to Sheikh Jassim's camp, because truth be told, Sir Jim Ratcliffe seems to be fairly confident that he was the preferred bidder, and it looks like he was going to get the club anyway.
He was well, the best way to answer that is he's confident because his own countrymen, in terms of the British media, are publicly backing him. His own company and a lot of the stakeholders that are on Ineos's board are prepared to invest into Manchester United as a sporting opportunity, and add that to their list of sporting projects with the Ineos sporting group and project that they run. So a lot of what you're saying in terms of is this why it's been dragged out and why Sir Jim Ratcliffe is confident? Well, the reason why Sir Jim Ratcliffe is confident is he's cooked up and he's masterminded a strategy where it facilitates him getting control of his boyhood club, albeit not what he initially insisted on, 69% of it, but he gets the majority control. He basically gets what the Glazer family own right now, really, but you just have a couple more partners in the background of whom won't invest into the football club and will just basically sit there and ponder until they ever want to sell, or you're prepared to buy them out unless you put set clauses and terms. And I know last time we spoke with Sir Jim Ratcliffe's team, I said if Sir Jim Ratcliffe doesn't set a price to buy out either Joel or Avram, if that was the strategic proposal that they were going down the road with, which it was likely at the time that's what they were going for, because all four siblings, as far as we knew, wanted to sell their shares and wanted to be bought outright. But the conclusion that we're coming to now is it is Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but it depends on what proposal they want to go for. And the four siblings now, having consulted with Joel and Avram, they've realised that Sir Jim Ratcliffe can offer a lot more to them for just as much as they can to Joel and Avram in terms of staying on. And what I mean by that is the way it would work for all 6 Glazer members to stay would be they all have an individual share percentage in Manchester United, but as a family, it totals up to 69%.
Yeah.
What you could do is you could have all 4 members in the region of roughly have around 15%, or some a little bit less than, some a little bit more than others. You could have a situation where the Ineos group buy 5, maybe 10% off of each Glazer family member, and suddenly that rounds up to a round figure of maybe 45, 50%, whatever. It's enough to gain the control, so long as they have more Class B shares, which they would do if they were to get control of Manchester United. as we discussed before, they
Mm.
would need that to then control the club, which
Mm.
they're going to get that if that's the road that the Glazer family have decided to go down, in which it is. So
Mm.
the reason why Sir Jim was confident isn't because he had the money where he could just slap £6 billion on the table right now. It's not a case of that. He's
Mm.
prepared to pay six, but over to maybe a 3, 4, 5 year plan, which facilitates a business model, not a
Mm.
sporting model, is the best
Mm.
way that I can put it. And
Mm.
they look at Sir Jim Ratcliffe as the perfect business partner because you get cash here and now for either a percentage of each of your shares, or I'll buy four of you out, and the other two you get no money, but you stay in with 20%, and you're in it for the long haul with me. But there is the risk of Manchester United could go Petong, and I don't want to phrase it badly, but it could be another Nice in Sir Jim Ratcliffe's case. And ultimately it could become a failure and it could become a flop, and then suddenly you've lost a lot more money. But the only thing that I'm saying is, in terms of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's camp and the confidence, they have the better proposal in terms of a structure, and it suits them because they get what they want. They get control of Manchester United, and it suits the Glazer family because you get money here and now. You also get to stay, and you get a percentage of whatever Manchester United might go for in the future if you are to be bought out, or Ineos, I don't know, miraculously wanted to sell Manchester United in the long term. If they, I don't know, doubled its valuation, for example, just to phrase there. So the confidence really comes from the strategy. And as we know, and as we knew coming into this process, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he never valued a Premier League club. For the price that it took to buy one of the top 6 Premier League clubs, he never valued them. And the reason why he never valued them is because there was no business model or opportunity to be made for. But when Chelsea was available for £2.5 billion, that's a brilliant price for a top 6 Premier League club. £2.5 billion. And Chelsea really have been one of the most successful teams out of the top 6 in the last 10, 15 years. So even as a bonus in that case, it's London, you've got the projects, you've got the money there. It just fits perfectly for a business model. And that's why a lot of American billionaires and businessmen were in for it. But in terms of Sir Jim Ratcliffe and for Manchester United, the strategy and the proposal gives Joel, Avram, all of the siblings, if they want, the money now, but then also a lot more money you can get later on than what you can get right now if you went with Sheikh Jassim and you were bought out entirely as a family. So at the end of the day, the proposal beats the pot of cash, really. That's the best way that I can say it with Sir Jim Ratcliffe in this case for the Manchester United takeover.
Yeah, man. I mean, how can I even? So, okay, I have a because, and obviously for those who are watching in the chat, obviously if you have questions, put them in the chat, get them in, etc. If so, before we get to Sheikh Jassim, because I think obviously there's a lot of questions going on Sheikh Jassim. How can I put it this way? With the way that because you talked a lot about the structure and how the structure is that more so regarding the control of Manchester United club, or are we going to see, because obviously the biggest thing the United fans are concerned about is the lack of investment in getting a new stadium, in the first team, in the academy, etc. And all it sounds like is, as you said, this is basically just a business transaction. We're going to buy Manchester United. We're going to make the Glazers as much money as they can. So Jim Ratcliffe will obviously take over and do his thing. But actually, in the interim, because if it's going to take a lot of time for Sir Jim to buy out Manchester United, really and truly, and I've kind of always, one of the things I've always sort of thought about was like, well, if people say, oh yeah, he's going to eventually buy them out, etc., then doesn't that mean that there's going to be less money available for transfers, for infrastructure working? Is that all going to be pushed 3, 4, 5 years down the line? I mean, what does that actually mean?
In terms of what you just said about if there's money left over after they buy the club, or they try and build a plan and have the money set aside in years to come to buy out all members of the Glazer family, so they would have ultimate control in the long term rather than buying out in the short term right here and now. The only problem with that, as you said, is would the money be there for an improvement on the stadium? Would the money be there for the transfers. As far as I'm aware with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the first 3 seasons at Manchester United would be primarily based on the fact of he would make Manchester United more sustainable in terms of the revenues. So Manchester United, his focus would be make Manchester United commercially better globally.
Okay.
Then, second of all, he wants to then put money into Manchester United. But the only way he can put money in the sort of region figures that I'm hearing, around about 200, 300 million pounds, that's just for one season though.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he wants to do that is, if he could inject that after buying the club straight away, then he would. But the problem is he can't because of FFP. And as we've been through before, the FFP regulations don't help Sir Jim Ratcliffe out in this case at all, or Qatar. So at the end of the day, the only thing you can say in terms of Manchester United is, when you go through the process with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he would not be able to inject cash straight away. But if he could, he has the money to do so straight away. Just as much as Sheikh Jassim has said, I have £800 million in a pot of cash after I purchased Manchester United to invest in all different areas and yada yada and so forth. Then Sir Jim Ratcliffe's third and final aim is, I want to make Manchester United a success on the field. And what I mean by on the field is, I want to have a direct contact and contribution between myself as the controlling owner, the INEOS Sporting Board, and our managers, whether it be the men's, women's, or youth team managers. I want to know everything that's going on at Manchester United. That is his mantra, and that is his motto. That is something that we haven't heard since he's been in the process, but now it's starting to unravel what his plan is. And as I said before, the only thing that anybody really knew was he wants a new sporting director, and he's already got somebody in mind. That's all that I had to say to anybody on your channel or elsewhere was, he had a sporting director in mind, which is Paul Mitchell. That was the only thing. I didn't know that he had money on the side for transfers to inject into Manchester United. But it's a struggle, because whomever takes control of Manchester United, like, for example, people's preference, if it is their preference in Qatar, people, the resume of what Chelsea have done, people will put 2 and 2 together and come up with 4, 5, 6, and think that Qatar are going to come to Manchester United and inject £600 million over 2 windows. It's not going to happen. The reason behind it is because Manchester United don't sell a lot of players for high revenues or high figures, and because Manchester United don't use their academy maybe similar to how Chelsea do, and sell a lot of their young players, which means that they get net profits, so they can make a major profit, rather than you take what you bought the player for and what you sell them for, and then the money that's between the 2 figures is what you make, and then that goes on your transfer budget. Because of the reasoning behind that and how FFP works, why do you think City have broken so many laws to get to where they are? I mean, you can understand why they have done that and how they are so dominant, because you have to break the rules to get that good, unfortunately. And they've taken the risk in going down that way, and they believe that the lawyer system can help them out. But with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, his overall plan and project, as I said, the 3 vision outline in terms of direct line with the manager, heavy investment into Manchester United in the first 3 years, and then make Manchester United globally sustainable again. When those 3 things are done, he will say in a statement, whatever, that Manchester United is ready to win. We are ready. The project that I had envisioned for Manchester United is there, set up and ready. We can win. We can do effectively what Newcastle have set out to do. We want to make Newcastle a revenue force within European football. We want to invest in all of our different teams and make the Newcastle a great, great club, great entity where players want to come and have that familiar feeling. And then third of all, we want to invest in the city of Newcastle, which is one of their mantras, and that's maybe Sheikh Yassim's mantra from the Qatari side in terms of, we'll invest in the local community, those sort of pulling powers and strings. So at the end of the day, in terms of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the proposal is there. He's set out roughly what he wants to do. Whether it's what he follows and it's the blueprint and the model that he goes down, who knows? But the only thing I can say with any owner, and it's not just to hinder Sir Jim Ratcliffe in this case, even the Qataris would struggle coming straight to Manchester United. It would be a struggle for anybody. Me, you, anybody out there who has billions of pounds to spend on Manchester United. Nobody can inject more than £100 million into Manchester United. And that's just off of what you make. And that mantra of you have to sell before you buy is the biggest sticking insect to Erik ten Hag, especially over this summer's transfer window. So as much as people say the ownership situation doesn't help, really it does help because Erik ten Hag at least knows what he has to spend. Whereas if Manchester United were a brilliant selling club, then you don't really know what you have to spend because you don't know who's signing the books. But at least you know you have £100 million there. That's the sort of thing that I'm trying to get across in terms of that point.
Fairs. Let me just quickly read some comments before getting to the next question. So shout out to the comments, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the video if you're new. I think so. Solo says, if they do take Jim's proposal, how long would it take for him to be in control? And since we have low funds for transfer window, how quickly can we affect that? Well, I think as Tom kind of sort of summarized, Solo, a lot of the restriction is actually due to FFP, and he is right. So whatever we say about Qatar injecting ones as they would, and maybe they could cook books, I don't know. But the reality is that the only thing that might go in Qatar's favor, possibly, is just the fact that depending on the ownership, sporting directors, all the rest of it, maybe they might be able to actually sell players efficiently, quickly, if it was a full takeover. Maybe. I don't know how efficient we're going to be this summer or within the next two windows under the Glazers to Jim when it comes to actually offloading players to Manchester United Football Club. I don't know. There's obviously a lot of the community are sort of against Ratcliffe, so they give Ratcliffe to Claze. Arrow says, "What is the Qatari position? Will it be?" So we're going to talk about Sheikh in a second, Arrow. I can't support our ownership with the Glazers in. I'm sorry, and I think that's the sentiment of a lot of United fans. Just the very thought the Glazers could stay with Ratcliffe, I think, is just something that, even though it's in a minority position, it's still something that I think rubs a lot of United fans the wrong way. And it will be very interesting to see if people are still hashtag Glazers out, when this situation arises. There's no proposal from TomJournalist in regards to what he's going to do. Put Manchester back in Manchester. What about the fans outside that? Well, I think that's one of the criticisms when it's with the whole, I'm going to put Manchester back in Manchester United. Hopefully that doesn't mean just signing English players, and who knows. But yes, it would be nice to know about the infrastructure and staying, because as we kind of Tom alluded to, even if he does have the money, it's like, okay, well, is the money going to automatically go straight into infrastructure projects, or are you going to hold that money back because you still need to use some of that money to buy out the Glazers, and so you're not going to start those infrastructure projects 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the line? I don't know. It says his track record with Nice ain't great. He's the second richest in the league there after PSG. I mean, that kind of is damning. That kind of is a bit damning, considering that Nice, at the very least should be competing with PSG, if not regularly in second, maybe third. The fact that I don't even know where they finished this season. I don't think they finish. Where did they finish? I'm not sure.
I think they finished 9th. I could be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's not really ideal, is it? Scott says yes, but Qatar can build a stadium training ground straight away. That won't affect FFP. Cliff can't. So that's, I think, people's concern. Manchester's issue ain't commercial; it's the football structure, and he's not proven. Dundee Dusted says, if it's the rat, when or if will United be taken off the New York Stock Exchange? We'll come back to that question. That's a good question. Without super rich owners, you're a mid-table club, says Scott. Is that referring to United? Jay says, what about the debt already on the club? And we'll come back to that as well. He keeping the debt, from what I recall, is that true as well? So another question about debt. All day, every day, says Jane1, Glazers are 24/7, and I will not rest until they're removed. So actually, let's come back to two of those questions. So from Dunn, which is the first one, which is, if it's the rat, when or if will United be taken off the New York Stock Exchange?
Well, the sort of proposal that I know with Sir Jim Ratcliffe was, when he first entered the process, it wasn't public knowledge, but privately he'd expressed that he would change the exchanges from New York Stock Exchange to London Stock Exchange, which it based at the summit of American owners, put it on your own turf, and in terms of an exchange company, and flutter Manchester United as a publicly traded and listed company. So Jim Ratcliffe, if he was to do that, I don't think he would keep it in New York personally, because A, it's further away from home, and the American markets are a lot harder to maneuver if you're not an American citizen yourself. It's very hard to know how publicly traded listed companies based in the US work when it's a British business, it's a British football club, you know. He wants to put it back onto British shores if he was to do so. And that's why I think the London Stock Exchange, switching the two over, would be a lot easier. And when it depends on whenever he would want to do it. I mean, as soon as they take over, they can't just pull the plug on New York Stock Exchange. There has to be a status of notice. Then you have all the public shares that are with New York Stock Exchange, which either have to be bought out outright or then have to be listed and translated over. But then London Stock Exchange would have to take over the flak of the other shares. And depending on how much one publicly listed trader has of the Manchester United shares, you could then have a situation where either Sir Jim Ratcliffe has to buy them out, or those shares are up for anybody. The Glazer family could go and buy them if they wanted to, and they have more percentage of Manchester United. But they just wouldn't have control because it would be Class A shares, which don't have hardly any voting rights in Manchester United at all. So they wouldn't regain control of the club, is what I'm saying. So effectively, from what I know of Sir Jim, he would try and translate the exchanges over to London Stock Exchange rather than New York. He knows the British market. He knows how the business works in the UK via being, you know, a global tycoon from Britain himself. So he knows the British markets a lot better than he does US. And like your guess is as good as mine. Done is what I'd answer to that.
Fair. And then Jay of the question says, what about the debt already on the club? What is going to happen to that?
Well, in terms of when a new owner comes in, there's they call it, it's funnily enough, they call it the anti-Glazer clause. And what it basically is you can never leverage to buy out a club that is automatically and already set debt-free. What I mean by that is, for example, Chelsea Football Club were a debt-free football club, if you like. The debts were with the owner, Roman Abramovich, but he never reclaimed or recalled the debts, effectively. Yeah. So it was a debt-free football club. When Todd Bowley bought that club, if he wanted to leverage the club, so borrow money from Clear Lake Capital, for example, to then buy it, he would not be allowed to do that. It's against the law to leverage money onto a publicly traded business if you then don't withhold or state you're paying it off I think it's within 18 months or 2 years. So anybody who wishes to do so, it can't happen. It's illegal to do so, and then you would be forced to sell that business.
How on earth did the Glazers manage to get that through?
The way that they got it through, G, was it didn't exist when they bought in. That's the way. When it was passed through and it actually came through, it was, I can't remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years after they actually bought the club. And you had different scenarios. There was a couple of British clubs like Blackburn were going to be taken over in a leveraged buyout, and there was loads of different clubs at the time that were in the process of having these sort of things done. And then the clause came in and it shut any of those motions off. So really, the Glazer family bought in at the right time, and unfortunately for Manchester United fans that they did. But in terms of the debt right now, as we know with Sheikh Jassim, if he was to get the club, clear it off straight away, no problems asked. So Jim Ratcliffe, and I'm not going to sit here, Jay, and give you an answer and BS anybody. I honestly don't know about the debt. And it's a question that we ask, we push, and you get nothing regarding Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The only thing I know is he has some sort of idea about the debt. That's the only thing that we know. Whether that's clear it all, whether that's clear some of it, whereas that's leave it as it is, and that's the plan. Like, I have no clue. But the only indication that we had initially when he came into the process and before the process was, if he was ever to get Manchester United, he would move the debt onto Ineos's books. But he never stated how much of the debt, whether all of it, some of it, 1p of it. Like he never decided upon a number or how much of the debt. So in terms of that, I don't have a definitive answer.
Just I guess just final point of it. He presumably can't put more debt onto Manchester United, right?
No, he can't. he can't add to what's already here because it's not his mess that he's had, if you know what I mean. Essentially,
Okay.
he didn't cause the mess, so he's not liable and responsible for the mess, effectively.
Okay.
So if he was to come in, the debt would be on Manchester United's books, but he's the owner. Therefore, he's in control of whatever happens to the existing debt, not what he can add on to it or take away from it. That's why in Sheikh Jassim's case, it's a lot easier to explain. You come in, you bankroll the money out, you you take the existing debt, you dump it on the 9-2 foundation, and say the 9-2 foundation cleared £600 million of Manchester United's debt. In the same way that Sir Jim could do it with Ineos. Ineos Group clears Manchester United debt for £683 million, something around that sort of ballpark figure. Clears the debt out. Manchester United is now a debt-free football club. But then from there, whomever takes the money and clears it all out, and you have to clear all of it out, from that point onwards, any existing debt can never go on to Manchester United. Is a clear fact that I have to stay. So whoever comes in, if they was to clear it, Manchester United can never effectively be in debt at the rate that they are at now. You can be in debt maybe close to 50 million, because lower league clubs do it. They do it when they renovate a stadium, for example.
Yeah, of course.
So it can happen on a lower figure, but it can never get to the stage that it's at right now.
Yeah.
And in terms of that, that's why in terms of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, any major debts that he would want to make, he would have to either put on Ineos's books or put on himself, which whether he's willing to do that or not is beknownst to me. But in terms of the debt that's already on the club, whomever comes in, whether it be Sheikh Jassim or Sir Jim, depending on what they plan to do with it, once if and once the debt is cleared, any existing debt cannot be put onto the same sort of figures that you see right now with the Glazer family, because as I say before, a leveraged buyout isn't allowed. Therefore, racking up hundreds of £1 million of debts on a publicly traded business because it's on New York Stock Exchange, and in Sir Jim's case, if he moved it to London, it'd be the same process, just a different location. Therefore, you have the same problem. You can't leverage money onto a business that's publicly traded because it hampers publicly listed shares of which people pay money for. Therefore, you're not only affecting the football club and Manchester United fans, you're affecting billionaires, businessmen who have shares in those businesses and traded listed companies. So that's the best way, I guess, that I can answer that in terms of the debt.
Appreciate that, Tom. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Let's quickly go back to a rules question, because obviously this is the other half of the equation, and is, what is the Qatar position? Will there be another bid? What is running shape? Because, clearly, obviously, Tajik is the preferred bidder. The impression I get from obviously what you said and from one of my brothers is that Sheikh Jassim, it seems that many people advising him don't want him to bid again, but he really wants United club and is maybe prepared to go for it again. I mean, what is the situation regarding the Qatar and Sheikh Jassim position right now?
Well, when he made the improved offer, he put the terms take it or leave it. And the Glazer family, by deciding that they wish to go public soon and imminently with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I think that really puts the nail in the coffin in terms of Sheikh Jassim and the take it or leave it. He either has to now go back on his word and then up the offer, or you lose out on Manchester United and you lose out on a process of which you've been involved in for more than 5-6 months. And in terms of Sheikh Jassim, there is a direct line, or there was a direct line contact between him and the Glazer family. And the Glazer family insisted to Sheikh Jassim that you have to bid higher. If you want Manchester United, you bid higher. And as we referred to before, the Glazer family were the ones that contacted Sheikh Jassim, not the other way around. In what people perceive and think in the media, he bypassed, like when the media portrayed that he bypassed the Rain Group and he went directly to the Glazers and tries to strike a deal. That's not the case at all. The Glazer family have contacted Sheikh Jassim, of whom they had not even spoken to personally up until that point. They didn't even know if he existed. That's how mysterious effectively this guy is. And I know a lot of people joke around on social media and stuff by saying, is he an AI? Is he, a prototype? Like we never see any footage of him. He's a private guy, from what I know anyway. He's not a person who stands in the public eye and wants to take social media postings. He's a private banker, businessman, and that's how he just wants to live his life. And ultimately, you respect people like that. But in terms of the Qatari side and will they bid again, as far as I'm aware and as far as I knew from the last time, that was it. They weren't going to bid again. They're not going to go any higher. And that's the terms. Take it or leave it. Now, as we know with Sir Jim Ratcliffe potentially going public, there is no, if you like, definitive answer around Sheikh Jassim. The only thing that I can say is he really wants Manchester United Football Club. And if you really want something, I think you'll go the extra mile to get it. But I already think he has. I already think he went out on an arm and a leg by making that fourth bid. And by doing that, and I know for anybody who wants to know anyway, his father was the ex-Prime Minister of Qatar and ex-chief executive and head of QIB, the Sovereign Wealth Fund and the Investment Corporation in Qatar. His father did a private interview with I think it was David Rubenstein, the billionaire tycoon or the millionaire tycoon, so should I say? Sorry, with Bloomberg, and he did an exclusive interview. And his father, throughout the whole process, has insisted that he will not allow any of his sons, whatever they decide to buy or do, to be ripped off. His father supports his son's bid, and he would invest financially with his son, but he will only invest if it makes good business, and he will only invest to that point if it's a good investment. And I think now it's getting to the point now where the numbers don't lie, and people can say, how can he lose? He's got the state behind him. He's got all these different contacts. If his father was the ex-prime minister, like, he'll know all the people in the different departments. Of course he does. Like, let's not play stupid here. He knows everybody. He probably knows everybody in the Qatari royal family and government if they have money or where they can get extra billions from. Like, I'm not going to play a fool to that. But in terms of will they bid again, me personally, if he wants Manchester United as much as I've heard privately he said he has and he said he wants, I think he will. If I had to make a prediction, I do think he will, because I don't think, like I've always reiterated, I don't think you come this far to lose. And I don't think you come this far, personally, to lose to a broke billionaire, as people have claimed Jim Ratcliffe out to be. That's just me. And if I had to sum it all up, really, around it all, from the whole process, Sheikh Jassim has insisted, I have gone via the letter of the law. I've bidded before every single time I was required to do so. I've stuck to the process. I've not blown up and gone direct to the Glazer family and bypassed Rain. I've not been reckless. I've not been stupid with the money and throwing it around. But with that direct line and the Glazer family asking for a higher figure, when Sheikh Jassim had spoken to the Glazer family directly via his advisors and the different aides that he has around him, they were all taken back. They was absolutely stunned, from what I hear anyway, that the Glazer, not stunned by them the Glazer family contacting directly, because they wouldn't have contacted him directly if they weren't interested in selling. But the fact of that they've gone to them directly and said, you need to pay more money, otherwise you're out of the process. They are bemused, because they look at the offer that they put on the table and they think, we have given you all that we have, really, and all that we want to give, and it's still not good enough. And at the end of the day, in terms of the aides and advisors around him, if I was advising Sheikh Jassim, me personally, I'd have told him to pull that weeks ago. And I think a lot of those people who are a lot more qualified in that field, in that area of finance and business, rather than myself, I think they'll either have told him that or they'll be telling him that. And at the end of the day, because he's still here, I think that shows how much he wants Manchester United. And I don't think, me personally anyway, no knowledge and no context of it, I don't think he's just going to walk away without giving it one final nail in the coffin and say, you know what, here's all I've got. And the reason why I say I don't think he'll do that is he has £800 million sat away in an account or via the 9-2 foundations, source of funds or wealth project. He has £800 million to invest straight into Manchester United. And the Glazer family pointed that out to him and his advisors and saying, well, we already know you've got more money sitting there. So if you want to bid again, bid again. And we'll look at the offer. And if it suffices what we want, then we'll go with you as preferred bidder. If not, right, see you later. And
Mm.
the process, from what I knew anyway, with Sheikh Jassim is, he said and he insisted, I didn't want to touch the £800 million pot. I don't want to touch it. That's for Manchester United. That's for the club. That's for the fans. That's for the infrastructure. I don't want to touch it.
800 million, so you said, is it?
Yeah, £800 million straight away.
Yeah.
It's $1 billion if you convert it.
Yeah,
So
fine.
he already has a startup figure to invest, whereas we know with Sir Jim, we don't know what that startup figure is roughly. So at the end of the day, with Sheikh Jassim, he insists, I followed the letter of the law, but like I say, in terms of him personally, I think he's come too far to just hand it over to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's snaked Manchester United fans, and really, if I'm being completely honest, I think he's snaked the whole process really, because he come in, he said publicly, I want to buy 69%. Then privately, he's flipped the switch. He's changed his, he's changed his mantra and his, posture to the whole process. Oh, I'll keep 2 of them in. No, I might keep 6 of them in. I'll keep. You know what? I might, make and create some new Glazer family members, and we'll bring them in. Like, we'll bring more people in, rather than getting rid of them. Like, the guy has moved the goalposts far too many times. And like I say with Sheikh Jassim, he and his advisors were taken back when they were asked to bid higher or get out, because they looked at it and thought, we are the only serious people that can buy you out right now. And for you to come to us and demand that we do so is preposterous. And if you like, I'll be honest in saying it, if I was in the room personally, I think that would be insulting. And then you point out to £800 million that we want to set aside as part of our project and plan. It honestly, it makes your skin crawl, really. But at the end of the day, as I've always insisted through the process, the Glazer family only care about one thing, and that's the money that will hit the bank balance. And you saying you've got £800 million sitting there, boy, you best believe they're going to have a good go at trying to take it. And by all means, they're going to try and do so now. For me personally, as I say, this is no context, this is no information. I think he would bid again. If he really wants Manchester United as badly as he has insisted privately, he would go against what any advisors are telling him, and he would say, no, we're not giving up. No. Manchester United is a club that's worth fighting for, and it's a club that's in my heart ever since that 99 final. And you know what? Them players fought for me when I was a fan. So you know what? I'm going to fight for this football club as a football fan and as a Manchester United fan. And I will bid again. And whether or not that bid's good enough, who knows? But as I've said before, Sir Jim can sit in the hot seat, and so long as nothing is signed and sealed in terms of the Glazer family only negotiate with Sir Jim, which I think they would be forced to do so, because there's no way in reasoning to say that Sheikh Jassim would not still bid, even if that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazer family were holding exclusive talks, which they're expected to do after they go public. And the only mantra in terms of that is they could do that and still hold those talks, and Sheikh Jassim could still drop whatever bids, low, high, exactly what the Glazer family want. And it could still be accepted and gone upon from there, so long as nothing's set in stone. And like I say, I think the Glazer family would be forced to do so. And really, when people's impression, and I know we spoke about this, well over a month ago, are the Glazer family really serious about selling? You don't contact the only person that you can fully sell to directly and demand that they bid more if you're not prepared to sell. And as I've always insisted, really, and I'm not saying I told you so, but the Glazer family have always had a price that they would sell for. Always. All 6 members. We have one price. You meet it, we get out. £6 billion. Yeah. And you meet that price, you give us more than $1 billion each after we convert it, see you later. Manchester United is somebody else's problem. We get what we want. And at the end of the day, that's where we are. So for me, I personally think he will bid again, if I had to predict. I'd be very surprised if he walked away, put it that way.
Thanks for that, Tom. Really appreciate it. There's 1 or 2 questions I asked about that. I'm just quickly to read some comments. I'll just first start with the super chat. Shout out to Zoiteng TV. Shout out for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. So Zoiteng says, it's clear from the start, Glazer said they want $6 billion. As Thomas, you said. So Jim is buying 50%. at 3 billion. Why is Qatar still bidding 5.5 billion on his last bid? He needs to bid 6 billion. Yes, I mean that if that's obviously the case, and that his bid is 5.5, it makes sense. I appreciate that. I suspect that, um, um, it's for the full buyout, and it's like, okay, yeah, well, we can negotiate and we can you won't get a billion, but you'll get close to it if you guys all leave now. But as you rightly said, Tom, at the end of the day, if Sir Jim is if this bid for Sir Jim, this current one, obviously now it seems to have changed into multiple different. He seems to be giving multiple different options. But if the equivalent is that he's giving 50% upfront now for 3 billion, with the view to buy it later when potentially the shares get more pricey, then of course Glazers will see themselves as getting more money now and into them. So I get that. It's I just think that I guess I would say that if Qatar are going to get a club, then they either have to bid 6 billion or pretty much close to it. Maybe 5.8, 5.9, something that's it's essentially 6 billion. I would suspect that this fourth bid, still must be around maybe 5.5, just over 5. I don't know. I suppose and essentially make Manchester United the most expensive.
Well, put it this way, G. The best way we can say that is at the max, Manchester United is valued at £4.8 billion.
Yeah.
And we know for a fact that when they made the final and fourth bid, because we don't know the official numbers, and anybody who tells you that they are is BSing. When you know for a fact that that Manchester United is worth that, and it states within when they actually bidded, every single reporting and every single journalist has come out and stated Qatar are overpaying. They are prepared to overpay, or they are overpaying already to buy Manchester United with the recent bid that they've done. Then they've bidded more than 4.8. Sorry. So let's be honest. They're bidding over £5 billion. They've crossed the border to near enough what the Glazer family want. They're nearer to the Glazer family in terms of overpaying than they are in terms of undervaluing Manchester United effectively. I guess that's the best way they can put that to you.
No, that's fair. And thanks again for the super chat, Soy Tang TV. Really appreciate it, buddy. It goes to the channel. And if you guys, those are watching, obviously want more content and forms of content like this, consider becoming a member. Just hit the member join option for a lot of exclusive options as well. Or if not, consider subscribing for new, or consider going to the merch channel. We've got some nice monks going on. So yeah, support the channel. We appreciate it, guys. We want to get to 4, maybe even 5K subscribers by the end of the year. So yeah, let's keep on cracking. So just a few questions, because I know obviously we have to head off soon, Tom. There was another just a few questions here. If the Glazers are going ahead with Sir Jim, why haven't they announced it? Are they still nudging Qatar to bid more? I mean, obviously we talked earlier the fact that privately Sir Jim is the preferred bidder, but is the fact that it's taken so long, because nothing has changed and said that so long, because as you said, the Glazers want to sort of up the share price. They as you said, they ran Sheikh Jassim directly. Are they almost extending an olive branch just to Sheikh Jassim and saying, listen, this is the reality, is we're going to go with Sir Jim, but if you give us our money, we'll give it to you. Is that kind of how it is?
Well, you don't contact somebody directly if you're not interested in selling to them. Exactly. And the only thing I can say with that is, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe has held talks and things like that, and I know there's been reports that he's been to New York and certain reportings and things like that. As far as I'm aware, anyway, I don't know if he has been to New York or not, and things like that. I'd have to verify and make a few phone calls. But in terms of Sheikh Jassim, he wanted to, if you like, stick in the background. He was prepared. He's been prepared this whole entire way. Let the advisors, let the people who know what they're talking about in terms of valuing a sporting club, because I'm a businessman. I deal in finance and banking. That's not my forte. That's not my way of thinking. I need experts, not monkeys. and he's got the best experts that you can from Bank of America, from QIB, his own branch of advisors, his personal aides, and he said, "You deal with it, you sort it for me, and then you come back to me and tell me what that we need to do." And as I said before, in terms of the Glazer family, you don't go directly to Sheikh Jassim and his advisors and say you have to bid more if you're not prepared to sell to them for the right price. And the reason being is they cannot ring. What's the point of ringing Sir Jim up when you know this is all that he can offer you? A proposal, a plan. You know what Sir Jim can offer you. You don't know what Qatar can offer you really in the long term. And that's why I believe anyway, when Sheikh Jassim put those take it or leave it, sort of words and characters to the bid in the improved offer, you don't put something like that unless you want a reaction. You want some sort of engagement. And via the Glazer family contacting him and his team directly and saying, look, we'll give you as you said, G, you improve your bid now, or you get out of the process, and Sir Jim's who we're going with. But the thing is, this isn't like anything new. Like, the only reason why I say that is when the Rain Group contacted Sheikh Jassim's group, I think it was a couple of streams ago when we spoke, and stated, we need a bigger number. You have to bid more. Because privately, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is the preferred bidder. And then long and behold, as we said before, the day after, Sheikh Jassim then improved his bid. Like, it's not coincidence, really. And the only thing I say in terms of this is, as I've said throughout, Sheikh Jassim is a passionate Manchester United fan. The 9-2 Foundation means something to him in terms of the resemblance and the name of the class of 92 and the players of which that Manchester United were represented upon. And in that year, he became a Manchester United fan, supposedly when he was 10 years old. But in all of this context, the Glazer family have only gone direct to one person in this process, and that's Sheikh Jassim. And you can make up your own conspiracies, thought processes, and minds. You go direct to somebody if you want to deal with them. If they wanted to deal with Sir Jim this whole entire time, well, they'd be on the phone to him every night. What's going on? Are you having a bottle of red in the south of France, at Nice? Like, what's going on? Like, to go direct to Sheikh Jassim, you're going direct for one reason. You're prepared to sell, A, so we can get that factor already ticked off the list that we was questioning weeks ago. Are they prepared to sell? Clearly they are, and clearly there's a price, and that price is £6 billion. And love it or hate it, if the rumoured figures that Qatar have bid around 5.5 and certain things like that, we know they've bidded over 4.8. And at the end of the day, even if they've bidded 5.2, the Glazer family will look at them and think, well, you've got £800 million that you're going to use to buy after you purchase Manchester United sitting there. You add that onto what you've already bidded, £6 billion, we've got a deal. So I don't know, in the case of Sheikh Jassim, either he's shot himself in the foot by stating that he has a private fund on the side when he buys United, or it might turn out to save his arse in terms of buying the club. But in terms of are they nudging Qatar to bid more? Yes, they are, because they want more out of the Qatari bid. The only thing is, it depends on the impression that's been left. Going direct to somebody and stating, well, it's not really a threat, but it's being firm really and stating you bid more or you get out. It can go one of two ways. It can either push somebody on to say, yeah, we'll bid more then, or, nah, you've insulted us. You don't come direct with that sort of language. We'll take his money elsewhere and we might go and buy another Premier League club. Like, there's nothing like phasing and stopping that. And that's why at the end of the day, in terms of the Qataris, and I believe anyway, Sheikh Jassim's insisted privately as much as he has of being a passionate Manchester United fan, he will bid again. That's my impression that I take from what I've heard regarding him. He's and in terms of his delegation, his party, they insisted weeks ago to Sheikh Jassim personally, boss, you're the leader of this group, but we've come too far now. We've put in too much work, we've put in too much time and effort to not come out with the result that we want. We've come too far to not get what we want. And the only thing I say, and it's always a Qatari motto in terms of Qatar, whenever they want something, they always end up getting it, one way or another. Wanted Neymar, wanted Mbappe, wanted PSG, wanted the World Cup. They got all of those things that I've just insisted. Wanted Lionel Messi, they got all of them. Whenever they want something and they put their mind on getting it, Ugarte was signed and sealed to go to Chelsea. They want Ugarte, just shoulder bars Chelsea out of the way and top ball, and say, no, we're sitting at the front of the queue. See you later. When they want something, they end up getting it. And if this bid, whether we know it or not, because what's been insisted is Sheikh Jassim's buying it as a private individual, I don't personally buy that story. I really don't. Because you don't get your father involved, who has all these government and financial contacts within Qatar. Your father's not involved unless you have access to funds from elsewhere. And if you have those sort of funds that you can access from elsewhere, I personally believe anyway that Sheikh Jassim has more money than he has insisted and has maybe even bidded throughout this process. At the end of the day, I don't know. He might be as smart as JIM Ratcliffe, and he might have gone through this whole process and thought, you know what, I'm going to lowball, I'm going to go as low as possible, wait until they contact me directly, then I'll put my most serious offer on the table, and then say, take it or leave it, shut your mouth or take it. And whether the Glazers want to take it or not is another question. But as I've insisted before, he wants Manchester United as much as he says he does. I think he'll bid again.
Thanks, Tom. Really appreciate that. So as we begin to round up, we'll just quickly read some comments from the people. So Dundee Dusted again says, it seems the top teams in the league are all foreign owned, and I hear the Rock may want to buy a small division team too. Is this an indictment on English football? And he continues saying, maybe for UK identity is additional push for the Rats. I don't think. I just think that I won't say it's an indictment on English football. It's just more the reality of the Premier League. When you talk about why the people say the Premier League is the most successful league in the world, in quotes, it's because of foreign investment. That's the reason. So unlike La Liga and certainly the Bundesliga, etc., where the way that that foreign investment is managed is very, very different. Of course, you can talk about the TV right distribution, etc., but a lot of it is the fact that the laws regarding billionaires being able to spend and do their thing is a lot more stringent in the Bundesliga, in the league, and other leagues. Maybe not Italy, but that's another matter with Syria. But generally speaking, it is. Whereas in the Premier League, at least up until very recently, as kind of Tom's alluded to, it wasn't really. You could just spend whatever, do whatever it is you want, leverage whatever, and a lot of money obviously came into the league, and it became successful as a result because you obviously bought the best players. But ultimately, as you said, it's led to most of the top teams being in quote foreign owned. Whether the idea of the biggest club in Manchester United being the biggest club being owned by a British person makes sense. I don't know. Personally, I don't really care because currently right now, previously anyway, two of the owners of the British owners of clubs were Daniel Levy and Mike Ashley. And Mike Ashley was hated by almost every Newcastle fan, and now they love the current owners. And Daniel Levy is currently hated by every Spurs fan. So I don't know what the best question is. Is there an English or British owner in the league that's actually liked or loved by their fans? I don't think there is right now currently.
Probably Brighton.
Yes. Okay, I'll give you Brighton. Okay, I'll give you Brighton. Yeah. I think Glazers don't want to sell; they want to stay. But if a bid comes, they take it from Qatar. Fair enough. Lansell says, "I'm holding on to Qatar, not coming to this to lose 2 weeks when we need this wrap." So it's similar to kind of what you were saying. Let's have a quick look. Glazers should not be allowed to own a football club. Well, to be honest, if Thani gives them the $6 billion, it'd be very interesting to see what the Glazers put their money into. Whether they just retire and just sort of chillax, or whether, for example, the Glazers take the $2 billion or $3 and invest it in another sports team, you know. So I mean, maybe they might buy Spurs or Liverpool or something to say. I've got no idea. So I mean, I just feel like if someone's handing you 1.2 billion pounds, surely you can't just sit on that and just smoke cigars, or you know, you got to invest it to something. So, but I don't know. Maybe they would. I wouldn't put it past them. Um, let's see. Rihanna says, "Big up artists and Tom. Thank you so much. Hit the like. Thank you. Hit the likes. People's free. Exactly. There's 50 plus watching, guys. Let's get to at least 50 likes on this video, please. For the algorithm, it literally takes you guys nothing. You know, there's a lot of people watching, so please hit the like button. It really helps a long way. We'd appreciate it. Let me. Okay, yeah, I know, but I think with players we might become like Leicester City in a few years. I mean, God, I hope not. God, I hope not. But to be honest, that final loss kind of did make me think. You know what? If this club is mismanaged, it could go down that way. It literally could go down that way. Question for Tom: at the start of the day, said they want to look at funding or sell the club. They could also wait to see if they can get funding. As you said, they feel United will be worth more. So I assume what you're trying to say is, are they still looking at other alternative sources of funding? I imagine not at this point, but what do you think, Tom?
No, and as insisted over a month ago, the minority groups that were in this process, they knew it was a long shot because they didn't really want to come public. They didn't really want to have the major exposure and their name be out there. And that's for one reason, bad publicity and PR. Because if you're prepared to keep such as the Glazer family in control, these companies, they're not stupid, they're not ridiculous. They, like, some of them would be Manchester United supporters, of whom they might not even like the Glazer family. But if it makes good business sense, get into bed with the M&E. Why not? If you're going to make money out of it, like some people don't care; they'll turn a blind eye to whomever it is at the end of the day. So, in terms of the question, are the Glazer family looking at alternative ways of funding? Elliott Management is still in. As I said before, there was Elliott Management, there was Carlisle, SSB Partners, and Oak Tree Capital were the mainstream minority groups. But at this point now, like, let's be honest, it is Sir Jim Ratcliffe or Qatar. And if the publicity and the papers don't tell you that, then I don't know what is. But at the end of the day, there's nothing like those 4 investment vehicle groups that I've just said. There's nothing stopping one of them suddenly going from, do you know what? We're going to buy part of this football club. Let's just buy it all. We've got the money. We've got the money in assets. You know, so some of these groups, like the Carlisle Group, for example, I think they've got assets, you know, over and worth in the region of $298 million, which is, you know, ridiculous money, really. And they'll have billions of pounds of stockpiles of cash just sat around if they want to buy Man United. But that, as I said before, and I'll reiterate by saying it again, Manchester United, whoever wants to buy this football club, if you're looking at this if you're buying all of it right now, you're not buying it for business purposes. And that's why with Sheikh Jassim's bid, you can tell straight away, you don't fork out £6 billion on a business project because A, it's a hefty business project, and B, it's something that either you have a passion towards, ego being a fan, or you don't really know what you're doing with your money. And being a banker himself, I would be stunned to, you know, come to that revelation or that sort of reasoning. But as we've said before, and we'll say again, the alternative source of funding, if you like, the strategic alternatives sort of saga or you know, saying, really we can say that's a smokescreen because they were never going to accept a minority group. When you have serious offers on the table to give you money now and you stay now, or somebody comes in and buys you all out here and now, like why would you even like look at those offers and even like twitch to one of them? Because all of those offers are pretty much similar, if not the exact same sort of offers. But you still stay in control of Manchester United, but you just, as we said before, and we say again, they wouldn't get as much for their money to sell a minority stake as they would for, say, going with Sir Jim right now. That's why it makes more sense to go with Sir Jim than it would a minority group. And you don't even have to be in control of the football club. You just sit around, you've been bought out a couple of billions, and you still sit there. Like, I think really, if anything, people talk about Pep Guardiola's a footballing genius. So Jim Ratcliffe must be a proposal genius with what he's managed to thunder up here. And look it or hate it, as football fans or Manchester United fans, I think you have to take your hat off in saying he's fooled a lot of people.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah,
he's outsmarted a lot of people.
yeah,
He was
yeah.
never going to win a financial battle. So the only way you can do, to get what you want really is you cut a deal and you buy in. And he's doing. He wants to do that now.
Yeah,
That's
I
his
mean,
proposal. That's his mantra.
because a part of me is thinking, whatever you say about Qataris, there's no reason why the Qataris couldn't have offered a similar thing. They couldn't have said, listen, but they could have said, hey, listen, okay, we'll give you, um, you know, if the Sajim model, the method of bidding is the only way, then okay, if Sajim is offering 3 billion for 6, for half of the club, we'll offer you 3.1 or 3.2. And therefore we'll keep the Glazers, but at the end of we'll keep the Glazers like you did, but we'll try and buy them out at a quicker stage, etc., etc. And even though essentially the point to make is that Sir Jim Radcliffe has basically been the most flexible when it comes to his buying options, as opposed to Qatar, who've only really said we're only basically for full sell only. If they've maybe been flexible and said, hey, we can consider a partial sale as well alongside and to rival, then potentially Sir Jim might have been in a difficult situation. It's like, well, we're not going to be able to outbid this. And we know that the Qataris would be able to eventually buy out the Glazers with very little use in the long run. We know that. So it does, obviously, it wouldn't have been popular by fans regardless. Kind of does surprise me that the Qataris did not think of alternative ways to secure the club, as opposed to as you said, Sir Jim, who everyone should remember a year before this when Sir Jim was rumored to be interested in buying the club, and everyone was like, wow, this is great, new owner, new ownership, and we're all backing him and supporting him, and we're like, this is great, come on, Sir Jim, let's get involved. And then obviously when it went official that the Glazers wanted to start, he was flooded by line. People still like, yeah, but now it's obviously like, it's almost like, do people even want this to happen?
Yeah. No, it's like you said, it's an understanding really, in terms of the Qataris, because if the Qataris if Sheikh Jassim cut the Glaze family a deal and said, look, I want to buy a controlling stake, I'll give you, I don't know, he could say 3-4 billion, whatever, so long as I have control of Manchester United, and then we set up a date in the same way that Sir Jim is, in 3 years' time or whatever, and I buy you out, it wouldn't go well with the fans. But do you know what's funny? Really, Sir Jim Ratcliffe then, he has, I would sit here now and say, he's lost. He has lost. Because Qatar have the money behind them to do the projects, because they've already said that what they're going to do. You know what these people are going to do. So really, in terms of Joel and Avram, they will sleep easy at night knowing, do you know what? We're rubbing his hands together. A new stadium is going to Manchester United, training ground, everything, and we didn't even have to pay for it. But you know what? We're going to get 20% stake of it, or we're going to get however much individually. Oh, this is brilliant. And we get cash here and now. Oh, it's like winning the lottery. That is what the minds of the Glazer family would be if that was to happen. And then Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he has got nowhere to go. Seriously, he's got nothing. He has absolutely nothing, because he's been done on price, proposal, plans. He's been done on all of the different Ps. And at the end of the day, what else can Sir Jim Ratcliffe offer, as I've already insisted? Nothing. He's got nothing else to offer. Other than if he flip-flopped again now and said, I'll buy the whole thing here and now. I've got the money. I don't know. I've sold my house in Nice, or I've sold something that's worth hundreds of millions of pounds, and I've got the money now to rack up a more substantial offer. But it's not going to happen. And the other thing I can say with Sir Jim is, it's funny how in terms of the company that he operates, and he's a major stakeholder and founder, I think he's the biggest within Ineos. Ineos generates annually around about 70. I think it's $80 million, which is around about 70 million pounds. I could be wrong when you convert it back. And I don't know what it is in euros. I wouldn't like to speculate in terms of euros. But in terms of those two figures, the pound sterling and the dollar, 70 billion pounds, but you don't have hardly any money, even just to buy 50% right now. Like, and this myth around net worth, just to educate some people, when you see net worth, it might be 88 billion pounds next to somebody's name. That doesn't mean they have 88 billion pounds in their bank account. If people think that, that's a myth and it's wrong. It means they have 88 billion pounds worth of assets. When you add up all their assets, their cars, the houses, the watches, I don't know, like in Elon Musk's case, you know, apps in terms of Twitter, like when you add up all of their different businesses that they own or that they operate with, when you add them all up, that's the figure it comes to. So in terms of, say, for example, Sheikh Mansour, his net worth's around 20 billion pounds, but effectively we know he has the state of he has Abu Dhabi backing and behind him via being the prime minister, or I think he's a political figure there. But as a personal individual, having 20 billion pounds worth of assets, like, he is the richest owner in the league. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe, if he was to buy Manchester United, theoretically, aside from Newcastle, he would be top 3. He would be the 3rd richest owner in the Premier League because he's richer than FSG. He was, I'm sure as hell, he's about 5 times richer than Todd Bowler at Chelsea. He's the only 2 people that are more wealthier than Sir Jim is PIF, which owns Newcastle, which is around 300 billion pounds of an investment group, and then you have oh, blimey, I've just said it then. I've just slipped my mind. Who is it now? Sheikh Mansour, that's it. Then have Sheikh Mansour at around 20 billion pounds. So really, you know, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, as a net worth individual, he's the richest man in the UK and Britain for one reason. He has the most assets which are valued the most, not because he has the most money in his bank account. That's just that. You know, that's just a summary of how I've best placed of how I can say it. And as you know, we can, you know, sum it all up and round it all up. If Qatar were to cut a deal, really, I think Manchester United fans are at the point now where they don't really care. They really don't care. They just want to know what's going on with their football club. And for me personally, as a Manchester United fan myself, I look at the whole process and I think the clarity has never been there from day one with these people. And for me, via Sir Jim Ratcliffe doing what he's done, I think he's shown his hand in terms of, I don't really care. I just want in all means necessary. Whether that's because he's that much in love of Manchester United, I don't know. It's a question mark there. And as I've reiterated and said before, just to make a final point, Sheikh Jassim has made a direct connection between his personal life when he was 10 years old and the class of 92 and being a Manchester United fan via naming the 9-2 Foundation after a historical monument and moment in Manchester United's club history. They've done that. He's done that for a reason. He could have named it the Sheikh Jassim Foundation. He could have named it Red Devil Studios Foundation. He could have named it whatever he wanted to name it. And it doesn't matter. But with Sir Jim Ratcliffe in this case, the only thing that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has ever stated, and he stated it in a personal interview at an INEOS stakeholders meeting, summit, was, I was there at the 99 final. But he's got no pictures. I've never seen him in a Manchester United shirt. The only other time that he's ever been pictured being at Old Trafford was when he went to visit it, and he wasn't even there an hour. So you love Manchester United that much, you didn't even stay for over an hour. People go on tours. People go look at the facilities, go look at the dressing room, take a couple of pictures. Oh yeah, this is what we can improve. That's what we can improve. He wasn't even there an hour. In comparison to the Qatari delegation when they were visiting at Old Trafford, they was at Old Trafford for 3 hours. 3 hours in comparison to 1. And the main guy wasn't even there for one of the teams. And, like I said, the rest is bon appetit is history. But I guess that's the summary that I can give in terms of the two different groups. If Qatar was to cut a deal, to be honest with you, Manchester United fans, they might be outraged and everything, but at the end of the day, they're meeting Sir Jim Ratcliffe on an even playing field. Then really,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to sit here and say that they will do that because honestly, if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd probably give you maybe 2%. There's a 2% chance maybe that the Qataris would ever do some sort of a deal. The thing is, and I know it with Qatar especially, with a lot of the business people out there that I'd spoken to that were at the World Cup and a load of friends went over there and stuff who know people or influential people there. And the one thing that they always said to me was when they ever spoke to a businessman or anybody there is, we don't ever partner with foreigners. That's the one thing that Qatar always say. We do not build a partnership with foreign individuals. It's either we get all of something or we get none of anything. And I take something like that and I think Sheikh Jassim, wealthy Qatari individual, part of the royal family, that's probably a moral in their family. Like, I just look at something like that and I think, you ain't gonna keep you ain't gonna cut a deal. You ain't gonna do a Sir Jim Ratcliffe. A, because you don't need to, and B, because it's one of your personal morals or it's one of your family sort of mottos, I guess.
Yeah. Well, so final question, I think, because I think obviously with the bounce, obviously Tom, imagine you're pretty busy, and actually comes from Tom because I mean, and I guess this summarizes the general sort of. Well, actually, there's two questions. I want to quick. This is the last one. Sorry, Tom, because you're busy. On Sheikh Jim, and then just like a brief touch on this whole transfer nonsense because I think just some clarity of transfer would be good as well. Of Mount and all this other stuff. But yeah, so the answer is Tom, on a serious note, what's your honest opinion of the chance of Qatar winning? Could you do the results in a percentage? This is kind of how the right now, I guess. Oh, and shout out to Christian in the chat, man. Thank you for joining in, Christian.
There you go. It's tough, to be honest with you. It is really tough if I had to put a percentage on it. Right now, Sir Jim has over more than 50% a chance of getting it right now because, as I say, he will be announced as being public, and he will, into the public as being the preferred bidder. So, unless Sheikh Jassim, like you say, when Rain went to Sheikh Jassim directly and said you need to bid more, he bid more. So, really, for me, I think if he wants Manchester United as much as he says he does, I think he'll put his money where his mouth is, and I think he'll bid again. Whether it's good enough or not, I don't know. But if I had to put a percentage, 40% chance, I think Sheikh Jassim and Qatar could win from this stage right now because the Glazer family's mind's already made up. So, and the way how I look at it is, to be honest with you, even coming close, maybe missing their mark of £6 billion by £200 million, I think it would still mean something. And I think that's shrewd and that's stubborn. I think they'd wait. I think they would wait and say, no, we'll wait a bit longer. Wait another week, another 2 weeks. Yeah, it'll piss off Manchester United fans, but if they were in our position, I'm sure they'd wait 2 weeks if they're getting £200 million. So we'll wait. And then maybe he'd put the bid in again or not. So in terms of percentage, I'd probably give him 40% because my personal prediction, it's no knowledge or information that I've received or anything, is my prediction is I think he will bid again. If he wants Manchester United as much as he said he has, I don't think he'd come this far to give up the ghost and not at least make one final push to buy Manchester United. So for me, I think he will bid again. Whether it's good enough or not, I don't know. But I'd probably give 40% if I had to put a number.
Fair play. Thank you, Tom. Sorry, what's the question? Sorry, Chris saying 40%. 40% lower. Rats one. Christian, yeah, I've just seen this. Have you heard about AC Man just fired Maldini and now everyone is that is I might have to come on you guys. Was it Rossoneri TV to discuss with you guys maybe this weekend or something about it because that is definitely very surprising news coming out of Syria. I will come back by the show because I don't get it. For all intents and purposes, I thought Maldini was doing a good job. So for him to be fired like that, along the lines of, it seems that there seems to be a sentiment of firing ex-legends now. Obviously, Khan got fired by Bayern Munich, but I can kind of see why with the whole Tuchel situation. But even then, so there you go.
From what I know, anyway, just to I guess give a bit of context with AC Milan is the chairman and the outright owner, Jerry Cardinal, who owns is the chief executive at Redbird Capital, which has a minority investment in Liverpool with FSG. He and Maldini have had a major blow up and bust up over the transfer policy for this summer window, and Paolo Maldini's walked out of the meeting and out of the conversation and said, "I'm done then. Like, if you're not going to back the ideas of what I have as the sporting director, see you later. I'd rather go and work somewhere else." As much as I love this club and I'm a legend and everything, I care more about my own, plans and what I believe is right for the football club that I love. And really, I don't think you can blame somebody for that. No. If they think like it's, at the end of the day, it's almost questioning the person you're employing. You question somebody you employ. If you think you're better than you think you know better than the person that you're employed by, by all means, Paolo Maldini, go and do a David Beckham. Go and create your own football club. Like, go and make a football club in the MLS or something. Like, go and prove, I guess, Jerry Cardinal wrong. Go somewhere else and do your plan and vision and make a success of it. I mean, whoever takes over at Manchester United, there'll be a sporting director's job, because I don't think John Murtough is going to be sitting around long. So maybe not. If that's what Manchester United fans want, then I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if Murtough stays at this rate. Megasaur says, and how long does Tom think will finally win a major trophy?
Is Carabao Cup not good enough for people now? No. Not Manchester United. No. Honestly, I really don't know with what we saw the other week, because I just think when we saw City on Saturday for the game that I actually went to as well in person, like, from what I just saw 5-6 years away from that. I really did, and I know it's hard to contemplate that as a fan, but I just think the money, the expertise, the manager with Manchester City, and they are the best team in our league in terms of the Premier League, and they are the best team in Europe for me in terms of a team and an actual club structure. And as a Manchester United fan, it does pain me to say it, and it does hurt to say it, but I would be shocked if they don't go and win the treble. I would really be shocked if they don't go and wipe the floor with Inter Milan.
Yeah,
that's just how I see it. I'd be really shocked. So for me, in terms of that question, I mean, I'm saying 5-6 years. I don't think you're going to touch the Premier League. I don't really. The only club that I can see ever challenging Manchester City all the way is Liverpool, and that even hurts me to say, because they're Manchester United's even bigger rivals. Possibly. Newcastle maybe depends on investment, and like you said, they've got to get to grips with just playing a European competition. So that's more games in a season, which a lot of them players there are not used to via not being in a European team or a competition. So there is things that you have to familiarise yourself with. And the way Newcastle are running transfers, I would say they're in it for the long haul. And they ain't going to do what City did and bust all the rules, buy whoever we want now, we'll worry about it later. Newcastle's been more calculated in terms of, we'll build, I guess, an old-fashioned, build from the back. We'll build up slowly but surely, and we'll get where we want to get to in the long term. So for me, from what I saw personally, when I was sat in a family friend's private hospitality box at Wembley, from what I saw, I would have said 5-6 years away. Easily 5-6 years away.
There you go, United fans. This is the truth that I was trying to tell you guys on the post-match stream that a lot of United fans didn't want to hear. Is that, oh yeah, Ten Hag did a fantastic job in his first season. He'll be ruthless. We'll be back. We'll be like, no. We're effectively Arsenal Football Club, and you can make a case that Arsenal Football Club are more advanced, more ahead than we are. So, but it is what it is. And come by the show, love and like the video, low. Yeah, oh yeah, Subway Ross down to looks like he'll be sell magic. looks like he will be. Looks like will be a sell magic to Chelsea in the future. We won't be surprised about that, given what Chelsea are buying now. Kingstash, shout out to Kingstash, bro. McAllister was 40 mil. Do you think we can do a deal like that? Hell no. I don't even need to ask Tom about that. Well, speaking of which, because this is, I guess, final point.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, sorry. Christian says it was actually Jerry, the fine Martin on spot because I'm only asking for more money, but Jerry. Yeah. So essentially, what you're saying, yeah, regarding the transfers and stuff like that. And Raul says, sorry. Raul says, no matter how bad they were this season, Liverpool are the only machine that will be able to hang with City in a one-up game. Yes. Yeah.
They're the only team over 38 games that I think can keep the pace with them because they have the track record for doing it.
Yeah. I agree. Where was it? Yes. So this is essentially the last question, and we'll bounce, guys. So obviously, putting the things aside, there's obviously a lot of transfer news regarding Mount and Kane and Human J and all these different sorts of things. I know obviously a lot of stuff has been held by the takeover. Is there anything regarding anything near, close, or I won't say imminent, but being investigated regarding some of these deals?
Well, put it this way: Erik ten Hag has put his list of players that he wants. He has, if he got his own way this summer, he wants 5 players. And I know that might seem a lot for what Manchester United did last summer, but he wants 5 players. He wants, the priority number 1 is the striker. He wants a number 9 at whatever cost this summer. I don't care if it's my last target or if it's my first target. You get me a number 9. That's my priority. But my priority target this summer is Harry Kane. You do all you can. You phone Daniel Levy up at 1 a.m. in the morning. You put fireworks out of his house. Whatever you've got to do, you speak to Daniel Levy about Harry Kane. And if you can't get Harry Kane, you go for one of my alternative targets. There's Rasmus Højlund at Atalanta. There's Randall Kolomuani at Frankfurt. There's, Dusan Vlahovic. There's loads of different players that are on the market in that profile. But as far as I know anyway, in terms of, in particular, Rasmus Højlund, if they went for the younger model striker, what the manager and Erik ten Hag would want is, if they went cheap on the number 9, he wants to then utilise Marcus Rashford as a number 9 also. So really, he has 2 number 9s. He just transitions a player to play the role, which we know Rashford can, in some games, suit playing down the middle. And then you have Højlund off the bench or vice versa, whatever. If that was the case, he would want a left-sided player. And the one player I know that Erik ten Hag has watched very, very closely all season is Kairo Matoma at Brighton. He's a player that he believes anyway would be perfect for his system. Whether you get him or not, because Brighton are offloading McAllister, Caicedo I think will be sold. It would be hard to tell. So in terms of his priorities, number 9, if he got his way, Harry Kane. Midfield, he wants 2 midfielders. Me personally, if I had to predict what he would do, I think he'll end up getting Mason Mount. Just on Mason Mount. No personal terms are agreed or upon or anything like that. Chelsea wants 70 million.
Tom, please tell me we're not prepared to. Please tell me.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
They want 70 million pounds, and they've said that's it. You give us 70, or you don't give us, or you don't even come to the table. Manchester United will pay 50. The very max, 55.
Okay.
That's it. We're not going any more. Okay. We don't value him. We value him at 55 at the max. And if you don't wish to come down and negotiate near that, we'll go in a different direction. Different direction could be a Caicedo. It could be a Romeo Lavia. It could be whomever. But one player, I think in particular with Manchester United, because Erik ten Hag wanted him last summer for a fee, and you can get him for free this summer, is Adrien Rabiot. Whether it be a free transfer or not, might throw a few alarm bells, but it's a player Erik ten Hag wants. It's a free transfer. It's basically what you did with Eriksen last season, really. So, if Erik ten Hag got his way, I think Mason Mount is who he designatedly wants for the midfielder role, and maybe a Rabiot alongside him for free if he got his way. So that would be Kane. You'd get two midfielders in Rabiot and Mason Mount. He's put aside a right back because he believes in using Diogo Dalot and Aaron Wan-Bissaka for next season, so that's not a priority. And as I've said, if you go low ball on the striker, he wants a left-sided player. And I've said to one of the players anyway that he's massively a fan of in terms of Mitoma. And then it comes down to coming to the back line. You've already reiterated Kim Min-jae. Kim Min-jae is Erik ten Hag's number one signing in terms of the centre half. They know about the release clause. They know you can pay 45 million euros, which is about 38 million pounds. Don't quote me on that. Which, for a player of Kim Min-jae's quality, for what he's done for Napoli this season, and win the Scudetto and stuff, I think is an absolute steal. Personally, 38 million pounds for a centre back of that quality, it's perfect. It's brilliant, really. And that would be Erik ten Hag's designated choice at that point. I mean, another player, Jurrien Timber, is another player that you could question, that you can think about. Erik ten Hag wanted him over Lisandro Martinez last summer. And when Ajax said we're not prepared to sell Jurrien Timber, we want to keep at least him, right, we'll go for Lisandro Martinez, who arguably has been a better player than what maybe Jurrien Timber would have come and done at Manchester United. So I would say watch out in terms of Jurrien Timber and what happens there. There is interest from Liverpool in both Kim Min-jae and Jurrien Timber. So you might have a battle for either one of those two players, especially Kim Min-jae for that release clause figure price in the early weeks of July. So there is, I guess, a process to follow in terms of him. And then you get to the goalkeeper. And I guess this is a question that has been ramped up from the performance that we saw at the FA Cup final with David De Gea, especially for the second goal, and maybe some of the distribution with the kick in. And if I had to give my personal opinion, he got showed up by Manchester City's second goalkeeper in terms of distribution. For a Manchester United goalkeeper, I don't care if you've got XYZ amount of appearances, that cannot happen.
Yeah.
It can. It really cannot happen. Manchester City's backup goalkeeper performs you in terms of anything, whether it be distribution, shot stopping, literally anything, catching the ball, coming for crosses, like anything. It is an absolute shame to a Manchester United goalkeeper for that to happen to them. And in terms of Erik ten Hag, because he knows the budget's only £100 million, the goalkeeper is really out of those 4/5 positions, depending on what happens with the striker and who you go for. It depends really upon the budget and how well Manchester United do in selling players. Me personally, I know for a fact that Erik ten Hag really likes Diogo Costa at Porto. But Porto, I think from what I know anyway, they have a release clause of around 75 million euros, which is about 68 million pounds, something in that sort of ballpark figure region. So, in terms of an evaluation of getting a permanent solution for David De Gea, it's something that Erik ten Hag would like. But if the budget stretches that far, but I don't know. I'll be honest with you, in terms of the goalkeeper thing, I really don't know. But the one thing that I can say for certain is people who are getting, jitters or anything that David De Gea is going to sign this new contract and things like that. David De Gea already knows, and he already knew weeks ago. This was before the FA Cup final, and even I think it was probably even before the Sevilla game, where they had that nightmare in Seville, where David De Gea knew at those times in those contract negotiations, Erik ten Hag had said, I want you to stay, but there's no guarantee that you will be the number one at Manchester United next season. And the one thing I know in terms of the goalkeeping department is Erik ten Hag wants competition for David De Gea. He wants competition. And if he wants competition, if you go and get someone like Diogo Costa, that's not competition. That is your second choice. David De Gea, he's not a second choice goalkeeper. But also, I think a lot of people, even Manchester United fans, will struggle to see where in world football he would be a number one. Because a lot of clubs now don't need a goalkeeper. And any club who looks at a goalkeeper, They want the full package. They want a brilliant distributor of the ball, a shot stopper, comes and claims for crosses, two of which I just mentioned in those, briefings there, which David De Gea lacks quality in. And at the end of the day, in terms of the goalkeeper, it depends on budget. I mean, I know Eric Ten Hag had earmarked players like David Raya at Brentford, who you could have got can get for £40 million this summer. But the age might be a situation to maybe think about in terms of that, because Manchester United always recruit a long-term goalkeeper, not a short-term solution in terms of a permanent number one. Like when they brought in David De Gea, for example, he was very raw, very young, and took over from an experienced Edwin van der Sar. So, you can see the pattern in terms of the goalkeepers United go for. But, like I say, it depends on the budget and how far the budget stretches. But if Eric Ten Hag, from what I know personally with sources in and around Carrington, if Eric Ten Hag got his way, he would get a permanent goalkeeper this summer. And that was already set in stone weeks ago that he wanted. And really, I look at all of the big clubs now in and around the top six. They're all doing that. Any manager that comes in, they want their own goalkeeper. Mauricio Pochettino is going to Chelsea. He wants his own goalkeeper, which is massively linked to Andre Onana of Inter. When you go and look at Mikel Arteta, when he went into Arsenal, he brought in his own goalkeeper in Aaron Ramsdale, who, matter of fact, he brought in, and he wasn't even supposed to be the number one because he still had Bernd Leno at the time. You've then, like I say, Pep went to City. He brought in Claudio Bravo as a short-term option, and then he ultimately brought in his permanent solution in Ederson. Klopp at Liverpool, he brought in his own goalkeeper. Hugo Lloris now at Spurs, albeit they don't have a manager, they're going to hire a new goalkeeper. So there is a thinking behind a lot of the big six clubs. And the one thing I will say in terms of David De Gea is, from me personally anyway, is him as a player, he's been a great servant to Manchester United for over the years and for what he's won and what he's done. But great football players leave football clubs or leave the clubs that they've been at long times. And the one player that I always, use when I say this about any player, not just at my own club, but Manchester United, is Pep Guardiola had one of the best and most talented creative midfielders at Manchester City, and that was David Silva. But he told David Silva, I'm not going to renew your contract, but I will give you best wishes for anywhere else you go to. And at the age that he's still at now, he's rocking out in Spain at Real Sociedad. And he was a brilliant technically gifted midfielder when he was at Manchester City. So nostalgia and loyalty towards players, it can happen. But at the end of the day, in terms of David De Gea, Eric Ten Hag wants him to stay. But he's never guaranteed David De Gea that you will be the number one next season. And if the budget stretches that far, I expect Eric Ten Hag to try and hire a goalkeeper, whether it be of the younger department or the permanent solution department in terms of his priority goalkeeper that he would want, which would be a Diogo Costa.
Fair, Tom. Thanks you so much, man. I appreciate it with the update. And like I said, it's been. I think we just all want the takeover to finish, and I think we all want ideally to have a summer transfer window of some sort of normality. I'm still, until I'm proven wrong, not convinced that this summer transfer window or the next two transfers are going to be handled particularly well. And I just see a situation where, someone like Kim Min-jae thinking, right, I mean, why I think might happen might be that for the easy one, maybe Kim Min-jae, because his release clause goes, that might be considered easy, then we might get him because it's easy. Sorry. Yeah. And with that, Tom has headed off. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. And as this is a big up RDS and Tom, so lucky Tom Riddle and Don says Tom the man. Yes, we are bouncing now. Thank you so much, Tom, for being on. Had to obviously bounce and head off. If you're new to the channel, to like, subscribe to Red Devil Sujo. Hopefully, Tom will be back later this week with a further update regarding the sale. Hopefully, we'll just get some clarity with and stay tuned as well, because I will be getting Tom on the channel once this wholesale debacle is over. We'll probably be getting Tom on the channel just to give us kind of regular transfer updates regarding, to the clubs. So rather than just uploading multiple different rumored transfer videos, etc., what we'll probably do is have bi-weekly transfer live shows with Tom to give us updates on where United are regarding their transfers and doing things that way. So let me know what you think about those guys. Remember to like the video. Remember to subscribe if you're new. Hit those notifications when I go live. Have a nice day, everyone, and cheers. Peace.